everyone, it's Joanna here from Inspired by Stamping, and today I'm going to share with you an ombre watercolor tutorial with our Just For You stamp set and some Zig Clean brush pens. Ombre means going from light to dark in one tone of color, or also dark to light. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be grabbing our Just For You stamp set right here, and this is a 4x4 stamp set, and we're also going to be using our Mini Misty. And I've already placed our watercolor paper here down, and now we're just going to line up our Just, and we're just going to make sure that's nice and perfectly straight. And I'm sorry if you see my head a little bit here. I'm just trying to make sure I have it perfectly lined up. And I use Versamark here, and I love Versamark because it just keeps that watercolor just perfectly in line. And so I'm going to be using the light first, and then I'm going to be using a little bit of the darker green. And I've wrote down in my blog post below the colors that I'm actually using for this card. And so going back to that Versamark here, just to make sure that I'm clear, I put down Versamark first because it just keeps that watercolor ink inside the image. So it doesn't go and it blooms outwards. So it's just a nice, beautiful, inked up image, and it doesn't bloom out when you get it wet. So here I am doing my second layer. So we just want to make sure we put a couple layers down. And next what you can do is you can put a third layer down, or you can just grab a little brush. And here's my watercolor brushes, and they come in two sizes, and I've actually 3 sizes on Amazon.com, and I'll put that link down below too for you so you can use the same pins. This one's a nice clean tip. It's very small, and I absolutely love it. So what you're going to do is just want to move around that ink, and you can see at the top there it's just a little bit too light. So what you can do after you do this, you can either ink that stamp back up again, or you can take your brush pen and you can go over it lightly. And so you can see here I'm just kind of going over it, and then I still didn't like it. I still wanted it to be just a little bit darker. So I'm just adding a little bit of the edge work here, and I'm going to take that brush pen, that watercolor brush, and I'm going to get that wet again and just kind of move around that ink. And you can see how that is just now starting to pop out, and it's really starting to come into a beautiful color. You can put as many layers as you want. You can continuously ink up that stamp, or you can just keep going over it with your brush pen directly onto that word Just. So there's 2 different ways that you can do it. So it's really easy and it's really fun. The color combinations, you could just go any colors. You can go black and navy blues for a masculine card, or you can go light and pretty for a feminine card. So here I am just lining up the 4, and again inking that up with that Versamark, pressing down and stamping first. And now I'm going to be using some pink, so I'm going to go light on the top again, just halfway down. You don't have to be any particular way or form, just kind of slap it on. It'll ink up beautifully. And so we're just going to stamp that over and press down. You can see how that just needs a little bit more. The more layers that you go, the brighter and the darker it's going to be, and you really can create some beautiful wow color cards here if you want to keep going. Or you could just do a couple layers here, and then you'll have a beautiful soft and subtle card, which is just as beautiful too. So here I am just doing 3 layers because this is kind of a little bit lighter of a color, so I really want to go in for that bold, bright, pretty. So the more layers you put on, the more beautiful it's going to be. And again, making sure that that tip is nice and clean here. We don't want to have that green going into that beautiful pink. So you make sure that you wipe that off perfectly, and just going over and move that color around to make a little bit more of a watercolor effect. So I really like this color, but I just don't like how light that is at the top. So I'm just going to go over just a few little areas here and just dab it. It's already wet, so the Zig pen just works really beautiful on wet too. It's just a beautiful pen all around. And so here I am just lining up the U, making sure that it's lined up perfectly where the Just is, and it's just perfectly lined. And again, grabbing our Versamark and stamping first, and then grabbing, this time I'm going with blue. So we're going to put the light blue first, and just move so you can make sure that you can see where I'm doing. And now we're just going to lay down that light blue first, and then we'll go over with a little bit of darker blue. And again, it doesn't matter how you're putting it on, just keep going over. You can go into a little bit of your light into your dark, just kind of slapping it on. No really direction of form either here, just making sure my line work is going straight up and down. And again, let's just stamp one more time. And I think I'm going to go over it again here because that blue, that light blue, didn't really show up. So I really want that to be a little bit more bolder than the bottom. And then we'll go back over it, making sure that that tip of that watercolor brush is nice and clean so we don't have the reds going into the blues. So I'm just going to wipe that off quickly. And now we're just going to kind of blend that in, that color in together. And I am using watercolor paper here, and it's just Canson XL watercolor paper. It's nothing really special. I got it very cheap on Amazon.com. If you have a Michaels coupon, you can get it for about $5 too. So I'm just going over again, just making sure that that's nice and bold. And again, just making sure I'm just kind of touching up where I see that there's a little bit of issue there. And so there you go. This is a different color. I ended up stamping on the side with the colors, with the beautiful florals on the side. And then I just added "on your birthday" at the bottom. So if you have any questions or you would like to leave me a comment, please do so below. And of course, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter where I have complete step-by-step instructions from start to finish on how to make a complete card. Thanks so much for stopping by.